He assumed I was just a frail old man, too clueless to notice the cash disappearing from my wallet. But my son-in-law's secret thievery was about to come to a shocking end. When he crept into my room for his usual payday, what he discovered left him paralyzed with fear. He'll carry that memory forever. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. My hand shook as I tallied the bills for the third time. 20, 40, 60. The numbers swam together, but the result was stubbornly the same. $1,000 had vanished from my billfold. I sat on the side of my bed, clutching the cracked leather wallet that had belonged to my own father. Every morning for 68 years, I had reached for it from the same place on my bedside table. This morning felt tainted, wrong. Maybe I used it for something, I whispered, but the words felt hollow. Where would I even spend $1,000? The grocery store, my weekly coffee at the corner cafe. I frantically looked under the bed, through my closet, in every jacket pocket, empty. The knot of dread in my stomach tightened with each pocket I checked. The smell of sausage drifted up from downstairs. Clara was humming, a tune she liked from the radio. Normal sounds from what was supposed to be a normal day, but everything felt skewed now, like a painting hung crooked on the wall. I went downstairs, slowly, my legs feeling strangely heavy. Clara stood by the stove, flour on her red apron, her hair in the same ponytail she wore in high school. "Morning, Dad?" She grinned over her shoulder. "Coffee's ready." "Clara, have you seen my cash, by any chance?" I seemed to have lost $1,000. Her expression immediately showed worry. "Money, Dad. I haven't touched anything in your room." "Are you sure? You didn't spend it? Maybe you just forgot." The question hurt more than I expected. Was I turning into one of those old men who forgot things? Who accused their loved ones of theft because their minds were slipping? "What are you two whispering about?" Marco appeared in the doorway, still in his work clothes from the day before. His dark gaze shifted between Clara and me. "Money issues, again. Marco, you haven't been in my room, have you?" I kept my voice calm, casual. His entire posture shifted instantly, arms crossed, shoulders rigid. "What are you implying, Mr. Anderson?" "That I'm some sort of thief." "I'm not implying a thing. I'm just asking if you've seen it. I work 16-hour days to keep this family afloat." His voice grew sharp. "I don't need to steal from anyone, especially not from family." Clara stepped between us, her hands fluttering with anxiety. "Dad, Marco would never." There must be an explanation. But I watched Marco's face as he talked, the way his eyes avoided mine. The defensive fury that felt too quick, too rehearsed. A cold certainty settled in my chest. "Of course," I said quietly. "I'm sure it will show up." Marco grabbed his lunch bag from the counter, checked his reflection in the hall mirror with unusual focus, then walked to the door. "I'm late for my shift." The door shut much harder than necessary. Clara touched my arm. "Dad, you've been under a lot of stress since Mom died. Sometimes our minds play tricks when we're grieving." I nodded, but my eyes followed Marco's pickup truck as it vanished down Elm Street. 3 years of living alone had taught me to know every single dollar in that wallet. I wasn't losing my memory. I was being robbed. That night we gathered in the living room like any other family. Clara sat on the sofa folding laundry, making neat stacks of Marco's work shirts. I pretended to read the sports page, but my gaze kept drifting to Marco, pacing by the window. He was restless. Every few minutes, he'd glance at his phone, run a hand through his hair, or fiddle with the blinds. The nervous energy coming from him was almost tangible. "Honey," he said abruptly, turning to Clara with a smile that felt forced, "I've got a surprise for you. Close your eyes." Clara's face lit up with real happiness. "Marco, what did you do?" "Just close your eyes and put out your hand." I lowered the newspaper just enough to see Marco pull a small velvet jewelry box from his pocket. The type of box from pricey downtown shops, not the discount stores we frequented. Clara gasped when she opened it. Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. Where did you get the money for this? The gold necklace sparkled in the lamplight. It was delicate, but solid. 18 karat, I guessed. Real gold, not cheap plating. I'd worked long enough in Denver's aerospace industry to know quality when I saw it. I took on extra shifts at the distribution center, Marco said, his chest puffing out. Worked all weekend loading trucks, double overtime. You didn't tell me. You were working weekends. Clara's voice was full of wonder, not doubt. I wanted it to be a surprise. When you want to provide for your family, you find a way to make it happen. I folded my newspaper neatly. They must pay well for weekend shifts these days. Marco's smile tightened just a fraction. Time and a half on Saturday, double on Sunday, plus hazard pay for handling chemical loads. Which distribution center was it? I kept my tone casual, like I was only slightly interested. The one off the I-70 corridor, new contract with Boeing. He was already helping Clara fasten the necklace. It's dangerous work, but it's worth it to see my wife happy. Clara threw her arms around his neck, tears of joy in her eyes. It's the most beautiful thing anyone's ever given me. I watched their embrace, doing quick math in my head. At least $800 for a necklace like that, maybe more. It was funny how the numbers added up. $1,000 missing, $800 spent on a gift. The arithmetic was starting to paint an uncomfortable picture. You're spoiling her, I said, forcing a smile. She deserves to be spoiled, Marco shot back, but his eyes met mine with what felt like a challenge. A man should take care of his family, no matter what it takes. The receipt crinkled in his back pocket when he sat. I saw a bit of the store's logo, Stanton's Jewelers on Colfax Avenue. Expensive taste for a truck driver supposedly doing weekend warehouse work. Well, I said, getting up and stretching, I think I'll head to bed early. Big day tomorrow. Dad, are you okay? Clara looked up from admiring her reflection. Just tired, dear. Good night. But I didn't sleep. I sat on my bed, wallet in hand, listening to their happy chatter from downstairs. Clara's laughter and Marco's deep voice painted a scene of domestic bliss. The connection was undeniable. Missing money, a pricey gift, lies about weekend work I could easily check with a single phone call. I'd been an engineer for 43 years. I knew how to solve problems by following the evidence, even when the answer was one I dreaded. 3 weeks later, I sat on my bed at 8 a.m., wallet open, staring at the hard truth. Exactly $500 missing. This time, there was no confusion, no self-doubt. I had been checking my wallet every single morning since the first incident, mentally tracking every dollar spent. Last night I had $800. Now I had $300. The theft occurred sometime after midnight while Clara and I were asleep. Marco was the last one to get home from his evening shift, arriving around 11:30 smelling of beer. I put the wallet on my nightstand and walked to the window. Marco's truck was already gone. He left for work at 7:30 sharp every day. But this morning, I'd heard him in the bathroom at 6 hours, humming as he got ready. The pattern was becoming clear. Steal cash, act normal, maybe even cheerful. Wait a few days, then buy something to make Clara happy and grateful. Keep her loyalty split between her husband and her father, but I was done being a victim. I picked up my phone and called directory assistance. Apex Electronics, downtown district, please. The clerk's voice was chipper. Apex Electronics. How can I assist you? Good morning. Do you sell small hidden cameras? Yes, sir. We have a few models. What's your intended use? Home security. I need something very discreet. We have wireless models with night vision, motion activated. They link to your smartphone. Very popular with our clients lately. I'll be there this morning to see your selection. Downstairs, Clara was getting ready for her shift at the grocery chain. She looked up as I came down, already in my good coat. Dad, where are you off to so early? Into town, honey. Have to get something from the electronics store. Do you want Marco to drive you? He said he was heading that way for work. The irony was thick. No, thanks. I'd rather drive myself. Clara kissed my cheek. Be safe on those downtown roads. They're doing construction on Colfax. I patted her shoulder, hating that I couldn't tell her what was really happening. Not yet. Not until I had proof she couldn't dismiss or explain away. In my car, I checked the rearview mirror before pulling out of the driveway. My reflection seemed different than it had in months, resolved. The confused, grieving widower was gone. The engineer was back, ready to tackle a problem with methodical precision. The thefts weren't random. The amounts, the timing, the defensive, anger. It all pointed to a calculated scheme. Someone thought they were stealing from a forgetful old man who wouldn't notice or wouldn't retaliate. They were about to find out just how wrong they were. I drove toward downtown Denver with steady hands, my mind already running through the specs I would need. Night vision, motion activation, smartphone link, maybe audio too if Colorado law permitted. Evidence first, confrontation second, justice third. The game had changed, but Marco didn't know it yet. Apex Electronics was situated on Colfax Avenue like a beacon of modern solutions. I parked meticulously between two sedans, my engineering mind already taking note of the store's security. Cameras over the entrance. To catch a thief, I had to think like one. An electronic chime announced my entry. Aisles of gadgets stretched out before me. Phones, tablets, security gear. A young clerk with nerdy glasses came over, likely curious about what an old man wanted with all this tech. Can I help you find something, sir? Home security cameras. Something discreet but reliable? His expression lit up with professional eagerness. Is this for a residential or a commercial application? Personal. I need sharp image quality, particularly in low light. He led me to a display wall showcasing various camera models. The boxes promised features I'd only seen in spy movies. Night vision, motion sensing, smartphone connection. Technology had come a long way since my engineering days. This model here, he gestured to a tiny black device, records for up to 12 hours on a full charge. I read the specifications. What about the image quality in the dark? Crystal clear facial recognition. Up to 10 feet. The infrared sensors kick in automatically when the light level drops. And the motion activation sensitivity? Adjustable via the app. It won't be triggered by shadows or minor movements, but it catches all significant motion. A very popular item with our customers. The Sentinel Spy Cam fit in the palm of my hand. It was smaller than I thought, but the specs were impressive. 1080p resolution, 140-degree viewing angle, wireless connection. Everything an engineer could ask for when gathering evidence. I'll take it. During the drive home, the small box on the passenger seat felt heavy. 40 years of engineering experience, and now I was using it to trap a thief in my own house. The irony was not lost on me. Clara's car was gone. Her shift at the grocery store lasted until 6. Marco's truck was also gone, which meant I had the break. House to myself for the installation. Perfect timing. Inside, I laid the camera parts on my kitchen table like a puzzle. The instruction manual was surprisingly simple. Mount, connect to Wi-Fi, download the app, adjust settings. Basic tech that even someone my age could handle. In my bedroom, I surveyed the layout with an engineer's precision. The nightstand was directly across from my dresser, where several framed photos sat. Behind the largest one, an Atex 10 from Clara's wedding, would be the perfect hiding spot. Positioning the camera took care. Too high and it would miss the nightstand. Too low and the furniture would obscure the view. I repositioned it 3 times until I had optimal coverage of both the wallet spot and the water glass I always kept. By my bed. The smartphone app connected instantly. Secure View showed a crisp black and white image of my room, complete with a timestamp and battery level. I tested the night vision by drawing the curtains. The infrared sensors came on automatically, revealing every detail in ghostly clarity. The motion sensitivity needed fine-tuning, too high, and it would trigger false alarms from shadows or the house settling. Too low, and it might miss subtle movements. I set it to medium and tested it by walking past the nightstand. The camera caught my movement perfectly, sending an alert straight to my phone. Now for the bait. I counted out exactly $300 for my remaining cash, arranging the bills to be clearly visible inside the open wallet. Not so much as to seem careless, but enough to tempt someone who believed they had gotten away with past thefts. The water glass went in its usual spot, a habit from when my late wife was alive, as she always insisted I stay hydrated. Now it would serve as extra evidence if my suspicions were correct. Everything was set. Camera hidden, bait placed, app configured. I switched off the bedroom light and paused at the door, knowing that tomorrow morning would change everything. In the Bowie darkness, the camera's tiny red recording light blinked once, then went dark, entering surveillance mode. 7:00 a.m. arrived with the precision of a factory clock. My eyes snapped open, a habit from decades of shift work, but today was different. Today I wasn't checking my wallet with confusion. Today I was collecting evidence. The wallet was exactly where I'd left it, but the bills were gone. All $300 had vanished. There was no surprise this time, just a grim satisfaction that my plan had worked. I reached for my smartphone, my hands trembling slightly, not from age, but from anticipation. The Secure View app showed one motion-activated recording, time-stamped at 2:47 a.m. The household was asleep. Perfect conditions for a theft. My finger hovered over the play icon. Once I watched this, there would be no more second-guessing, no benefit of the doubt, just cold, hard proof. The infrared video started with an empty room. Then the door creaked. Opened slowly, a figure moved with practiced quiet toward my nightstand. The camera's facial recognition was flawless. Marco's features were perfectly clear as he neared my bed. He moved like someone who had done this before. No hesitation, no fumbling. Straight to the wallet, his fingers expertly removing the cash. A quick count to confirm the amount. A professional efficiency that suggested experience. But then he did something that made my blood run cold. After pocketing the money, Marco picked up my water glass, the one I drink from every morning, and deliberately spat into it. Not by accident, not carelessly. A calculated act of pure disrespect and contempt. How long has this been happening? I whispered at the screen. How many times have I unknowingly drunk his spit? I replayed the most disgusting part twice more. The theft was methodical, but the spitting was personal. That was a man who not only stole from his host, but actively despised him. My fingers shook as I saved the video to my phone's storage and to a cloud backup. Evidence this damning was too precious to risk losing. The house was still quiet downstairs. Clara was getting ready for work, probably humming again as she made coffee. Marco was pretending to be asleep after his night shift, playing the part of the tired husband who worked so hard. I needed advice, an objective opinion to help me process this. Frank Miller answered on the second ring. We had worked together for 20 years before we retired, sharing enough coffee and engineering problems to build a solid trust. Frank, sorry for the early call. I need your advice on something serious. What's going on, buddy? You sound shaken. I just caught my son-in-law stealing from me on camera. There was a long silence on the line. Finally, are you absolutely sure? Video evidence, clear as day. It shows his face. It shows him taking my cash. It shows him, I paused, still reeling from the spit. It shows him doing things that prove this wasn't the first time. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. Clara has no idea. This will completely shatter her world. Evidence is evidence. Arthur, you can't ignore a crime just to protect someone's feelings. I know, but she adores him. She has no idea what kind of person she married. Maybe it's time she found out. After we hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed staring at the frozen frame of Marco's face, clearly lit by the infrared. The camera had captured everything perfectly, the timing, the actions, the identity. Irrefutable proof. Now I had the evidence. But what was I going to do with it? Through the thin walls, I could hear Clara in the master bedroom, getting dressed for another day of innocent ignorance. Soon she'd kiss my forehead and leave for work, completely unaware that her husband was a thief, and worse. The living room felt different this morning. Same sofa, same photos, same sunlight filtering through the curtains my wife had hung 15 years ago, but the whole atmosphere had changed. I sat in my recliner with my coffee, which tasted bitter. On the end table, a leather-bound photo album caught my eye. Pictures from December when Clara and Marco first moved in. Everyone was smiling, hopeful. The contrast with this morning was a physical blow. Opening it brought back memories I had tried to hold on to. December 20th, the day they arrived. Boxes piled in the driveway, Clara crying with relief. Marco shaking my hand with what seemed like genuine gratitude. "Dad, we're so grateful," Clara had said, hugging me so tight I thought my ribs would crack. "Without you, I don't know what we would have done." Marco had stood behind her, looking humble and thankful. "Arthur, I promise we'll get back on our feet soon, just need a couple of months to find good work." "I'll help with things around the house," he'd added. "Earn our keep." "Take your time," I told them. "Family helps family. It's what your mother would have wanted." Those first few weeks were wonderful. Marco did help. He fixed the leaky faucet I'd been putting off. He cleaned the gutters before the big January snow. He even helped me organize the garage. We'd share beers in the evening and talk about his job search. Clara was glowing with happiness, having family around again, seeing her father and husband getting along. She started planning for the next Christmas, talking about new traditions. But when did that gratitude turn to entitlement? When did Marco's respectful Mr. Anderson become a dismissive Arthur, usually followed by an eye roll? When did my helpful suggestions become bitter criticisms about my age, my habits, my supposed meddling? The change was slow enough that I'd made excuses. Financial stress was making him cranky. The job hunt was frustrating. It was just an adjustment period for 3 adults living together. I'd excused his increasingly disrespectful behavior, his complaints that my TV was too loud, his suggestions that I eat in the kitchen while they used the dining room, his sharp comments about old people who couldn't manage their own finances. Looking back now, those comments about money felt especially vile. He'd been stealing from me while criticizing my supposed financial incompetence. The album showed Christmas morning. Marco opening the expensive tool set I got him. Clara thrilled with her new coat. All of us around the tree like a real family. 3 weeks later, he committed the first theft. How long had he been planning it? Had he been scouting my room during those helpful visits, noting my routines, the wallet's location? "Love you, Dad." Clara's voice startled me. She was in the doorway, ready for work, her purse over her shoulder. She leaned down to kiss my forehead, the same gesture she'd made every morning. "Love you too, sweetheart. You're quiet today. Is everything all right?" The weight of the video on my phone felt immense. How could I tell her that her husband was a thief, that the man she trusted had been robbing her father while she slept next to him? Just thinking about things. "Go on now, don't be late." She walked to the door, then paused. "Dad, I know having us here has been an adjustment, but I'm so grateful." Marco is too, even if he's not good at showing it. The irony was almost too much to bear. After her car vanished down Elm Street, I closed the album and put it back. Those December memories felt like they belonged to someone else's life, a more naive version of me who believed in the good of family, who trusted without question. The camera evidence demanded action, but what kind? A confrontation would destroy Clara's world. Calling the police would destroy the family forever. Staying silent meant accepting continued theft and disrespect. I had my proof. The question was, what kind of justice did I want? The chamomile tea steamed in my late wife's favorite teacup, but not even Martha's old cure for stress could calm the storm inside me. I sat at the kitchen table, the 2025 wall. Calendar spread out, a red pen in my hand marking dates like a detective building a case. January 15th, the first real argument. I drew a sharp X on the date, remembering how Marco had tracked mud through the house after I'd asked him to take off his shoes. "You old people always find something to complain about," he'd said, his voice dripping with disdain. Clara had quickly intervened. "Dad's just particular about his floors. It's his house." But I'd seen the look in Marco's eyes, not embarrassment, but resentment, as if I were a burden he had to put up with rather than the man giving him a home. January 28th, another X. "Maybe if you didn't interfere so much in our decisions, our finances would be in better shape." That's what he'd said when I suggested Clara could benefit from overtime hours. It wasn't a discussion, it was an accusation, as if my advice were somehow sabotaging them. I turned to February, my pen hovering over several dates. The disrespect had escalated that month, becoming a weekly event. February 14th, Valentine's Day. The day he gave Clara that expensive gold necklace, the day after he stole my first $1,000. My hand trembled as I marked that date with a bold X. He'd been planning it even then, studying my routines while criticizing my lifestyle. Every complaint about house rules had been reconnaissance. February 26th. "This house feels like a prison with all your ridiculous rules." That comment stung because Clara had nodded slightly, caught between loyalty to her husband and respect for me. I'd watched her struggle while Marco systematically undermined my authority in my own home. March had even more red ink. Each X marked another verbal jab disguised as family tension. Old folks can't handle change. Maybe it's time to think about assisted living. Some people shouldn't manage their own money. That last comment made me sick now. While he was questioning my mental competence, he was stealing the proof of his own criminal nature. I closed the calendar and checked the clock. 7:30 p.m. Clara was working late doing inventory. Marco was supposedly picking up overtime, though now I knew what his evening work really involved. Tomorrow I'd drive downtown for special supplies. Tonight I would plan. The video showed me Marco's criminal side. The marked calendar revealed his manipulative side. Both pieces of information would be very useful soon. I rinsed Martha's teacup carefully, treating it with the respect Marco had never shown this house or me. Tomorrow would be the final phase of a lesson 3 months in the making. Some people needed to learn that disrespecting your benefactor had consequences. The joke emporium blazed in neon letters above a storefront that looked like a circus tent had exploded. I checked the address twice, feeling out of place among the displays of whoopee cushions and fake bugs. But this wasn't about jokes. This was about justice. Inside, shelves were packed with every practical joke imaginable. Hand buzzers, squirting, flowers, rubber chickens. A young clerk with purple hair and several piercings walked over, clearly intrigued by the serious-faced old man browsing shock gags. "Looking for anything in particular, sir?" "Something that it delivers a consequence for bad behavior. Harmless, but memorable." She led me to a case filled with electrical novelties. "These shock items are pretty popular." "What's the application?" I picked up a shocking wallet, testing its feel. It had a real leather exterior, impossible to tell from a normal wallet. How strong is the shock? Completely safe. Just 9 volts. Enough to startle someone without causing any real harm. The battery lasts about 6 months, with normal use. Define normal use. Most people use it once or twice for a laugh, but this model is built for repeated use if necessary. Perfect. I tested it on my own hand. A sharp jolt that would definitely get someone's attention without hurting them. After 43 years as an engineer, I appreciated good design, even in a novelty item. I'll take it, and I need some realistic-looking fake money, movie quality. Her eyebrows went up, but she led me to another aisle filled with prop cash. These bills look identical to real money in regular light. Only a close look reveals the motion picture use-only watermark. I examined the fake hundreds and twenties. I was impressed by the paper and print quality. They felt real. The weight was right. They even had the texture of used currency. How much for 300 worth? $37.50, friends, for the prop cash plus $9.90 for the shock wallet. Let's call it an even $50. I handed over the real money, thinking about poetic justice. $300 of fake money to replace the $300 real dollars Marco had stolen. He wanted to take my money. Tomorrow night, he'd get exactly what he deserved. The clerk bagged everything carefully to prevent it from going off by accident. Hope this works out for whatever you have planned. Oh, it will work perfectly. Back in my car, I put the purchases in the trunk and went over the plan on the drive home. After Clara was asleep, but before Marco's usual theft time, probably. Around midnight, I'd swap my real wallet with the shocking one, filled with the fake money, and place it to look authentic in the dark. At the red light on Elm Street, I checked my rearview mirror. Just a regular grandfather running errands. No one would ever suspect that tonight I was preparing something my son-in-law would never, ever forget. The trap was chosen. Now it was time to set it. Clara ladled beef stew into our bowls with the careful attention she always gave to family meals, trying to create warmth in a house that had been growing colder. The kitchen smelled of herbs and simmering beef, but underneath, the cozy aroma, something toxic lingered. "This looks wonderful, dear," I said, keeping my voice pleasant while studying Marco across the table. He had been unusually quiet, picking at his food instead of wolfing it down like he usually did. "Dad, you were working on something in our garage all afternoon. A new project?" "Just organizing tools. It's amazing what you discover when you take a closer look at things." Marco's fork froze halfway to his mouth. Something in my tone had snagged his attention, though he couldn't yet place the threat. "Speaking of looking at things," I continued, buttering a piece of bread with deliberate slowness, "I've been thinking about home security. It's fascinating how technology lets you monitor everything, even while you're asleep." "Security?" Clara looked up. "Are you worried about break-ins?" "Not break-ins exactly, more like internal security problems. Someone in this neighborhood seems to think other people's property is community property." Marco put his fork down completely. "There you go again with your paranoia, Arthur. Maybe you forget where you spend your money and then blame everyone else." "Paranoia?" I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "That's an interesting theory, Marco. Tell me, how much did that distribution center overtime pay you last weekend?" His jaw clenched. "Why does that matter?" "Just curious about wages these days. It seems like some people make money very easily for very little real work." Clara sensed the hostility and quickly intervened. "Can't we just have one peaceful dinner? You two have been at each other's throats all week." "Your father has been." "Making accusations he can't back up," Marco snapped, his respectful son-in-law facade finally crumbling. "I'm sick of listening to complaints from a cheap old man who counts every penny like it's his last." The silence that followed was heavy. Clara's spoon clinked against her bowl. "Cheap old man," I repeated softly, leaning back. "That's a fascinating choice of words from someone living rent-free in my house." "Arthur," Marco began, but I held up a hand. "No, please go on. I'm very interested in your thoughts on my character, especially my money management skills." Clara looked between us, her alarm growing. "What is this really about? You're both acting like you know something I don't." I watched Marco's flushed face, seeing the fear under the anger. He knew he'd said too much, revealed too much of his true self. But he had no idea how much I really knew. "Your husband and I just have different philosophies on respect," I said finally. "Isn't that right, Marco?" He pushed his chair back abruptly. "I don't have to sit here and listen to this." "No," I agreed calmly. "You don't. This is my house, after all. After he stormed upstairs, Clara started clearing the table with shaky hands. "Dad, what is really going on? You've both been acting so strange." "Sometimes people show you who they really are when they think no one is watching." She paused, a dish towel in her hand. "What does that mean?" "You'll understand soon enough, sweetheart." I excused myself and went upstairs, leaving Clara to puzzle over the evening's tension. In my bedroom, I took the shock wallet and fake money from their hiding place behind the dresser. In a few hours, when the house was quiet, I would set the final trap. Tomorrow morning would bring the confrontation that had been months in the making. Tonight, justice was getting ready to strike. The red digits on my bedside clock glowed. 1:57 a.m. When I heard the first soft creak in the hallway, I controlled my breathing, keeping it slow and even, like someone deep in sleep, while my heart pounded against my ribs. 3 months of theft and disrespect were about to meet their consequence. The shock wallet sat on my nightstand, loaded with prop hundreds that looked real in the dim light. Every detail was planned with an engineer's precision. The bait was exactly where Marco would expect it. The battery was fully charged. The fake money was aged to feel authentic. Another footstep, closer now. My bedroom door opened with the faintest whisper. Marco had practiced this enough to know every creaking floorboard. He moved like a professional thief in his own family's home. I kept my eyes shut but tracked his movements by the subtle shift of air and faint sounds. 3 steps to the dresser. A pause to confirm I was asleep. 2 more steps to the nightstand. The moment of truth arrived with a jolt of electricity. What the... Marco's pained shout shattered the quiet night as 9 volts of justice surged through his hand. The fake money fluttered to the floor as he stumbled back, clutching his hand to his chest. I opened my eyes and flicked on the bedside lamp, bathing the room in light. "Oh my, what was that?" I asked with perfectly feigned confusion. "Marco, what are you doing in my room at 2 in the morning?" He stood frozen, the prop bills scattered at his feet like courtroom evidence. His right hand was still trembling from the shock, fingers twitching. I was just getting a glass of water from the kitchen," he stammered, his eyes avoiding mine. "Water?" I sat up slowly, making a show of adjusting my pajamas. "From my wallet? And how did those fake bills get all over my floor?" "Fake bills? I don't know what you're talking about." "The same way you didn't know about the other times you stole from me." I reached for my smartphone, my thumb hovering over the saved video. "The same way you didn't know when you spat in my drinking water." His face went pale. "You're crazy. I never took anything." "Really?" I held up the phone, angling the screen so he could see the paused video. "Should we review the security footage? I have excellent recordings of your late-night visits." The trapped look in his eyes told me everything. My 3-month plan had worked perfectly. But our private confrontation was about to become a family crisis. "What's all the noise? Is everyone okay up there?" Clara's voice called from the hall, sleepy and worried. Both of us froze, knowing the moment of truth had arrived for everyone. Clara appeared in the doorway in her blue robe, hair messy from sleep, trying to understand why we were wide awake and shouting at 2 a.m. Her eyes took in the scene, scattered fake money, her husband's guilty face, her father holding his phone, like a weapon. "What's going on here? Why's everyone up?" She walked into the room. "Marco, why do you look so scared?" "Your husband has been stealing from me for months," I said quietly, watching her face. I finally caught him. "Dad, that's impossible." Clara's voice was an automatic defense, a wife protecting her husband. "Marco would never do that. You must be mistaken." "Watch this video and tell me what you see." I held out my phone. Clara hesitated, but the certainty in my voice made her step closer. The infrared footage started playing as clear as day. It showed Marco's stealthy approach to my nightstand. "This can't be real," she whispered, but her voice was already heavy with dawning horror. The video continued. Marco took the money from my wallet with practiced ease, quickly counting the bills. Then came the moment that made Clara gasp. her husband deliberately spitting in my water glass. "Marco," she turned to him, her eyes wide with shock. "Is that really you? And you spit in Dad's water?" "This is a setup." Marco's voice rose in desperation. "He's framing me. You can't trust that footage. He could have faked it. But I can see your face. That's our bedroom door. That's the shirt you wore yesterday." Clara's voice got smaller with each detail. "How could you fake something so specific?" I let the video do the talking, watching my daughter's world collapse as undeniable proof shattered her illusions. 3 months of lies were dissolving before her eyes. "Clara, you have to believe me," Marco pleaded. "I work hard for us. Why would I steal from your father?" "Because you've been stealing instead of working," I said simply. "Those expensive gifts for Clara, my money. Those weekend shifts at the distribution center, more lies to cover your thefts." Clara sank onto the edge of my bed, her hands covering her face as the full scale of his deceit became clear. The gold necklace she wore, bought with stolen money, the gratitude she felt for his hard work, all based on a crime. "How long has this been going on?" she asked through her fingers. "At least 3 months, probably since you moved in." The silence stretched out like an open wound. Finally, Clara looked up at her husband, her eyes holding no love, only betrayal and disgust. "Pack your things," she whispered, not looking at him. "We're leaving tomorrow." Marco started to argue, but Clara raised a hand and stopped him cold. The damage was done. Justice had finally arrived, wearing the face of truth. By 3 a.m. the next afternoon, the sound of packing filled the house. Clara folded her clothes with robotic precision, each movement careful, despite the tears that occasionally fell. In contrast, Marco threw things into boxes, slamming drawers and muttering about how unfair it all was. I stayed nearby but didn't push her to talk. Sometimes support just means being present while someone processes a betrayal. "Dad, I owe you an apology," Clara said quietly as she wrapped dishes in newspaper. "I should have seen it. I should have questioned where the money for that necklace came from." "It's not your fault, honey. You trusted him, the way families should. That's not a weakness. It's how good people live." She paused, looking around the guest room that had been her temporary home. "I don't know where we'll go. I just know we can't stay here." "You have your job, your own money. You'll figure it out." I handed her another piece of newspaper. "And you're always welcome back here when you're ready. This is your home, too." Outside, Marco loaded boxes into his truck aggressively, his every move broadcasting his resentment. The neighbors pretended not to watch, but suburban curiosity was too strong. As Clara carried her last suitcase out, she stopped beside me on the porch. "I hate that it came to this, but I'm glad you showed me the truth. Living with a lie would have been worse. I'm proud of you for facing it." She hugged me tightly, an embrace that said goodbye, thank you, and I love you all at once. "I'll call you when we're settled. I need some time." Marco slammed the truck's tailgate and glared at me. "You'll regret destroying this family, old man. We'll see who's right. In the end, just drive carefully," I said evenly. "Take care of my daughter. That's all that matters." Clara got into the passenger seat without a backward glance. The truck's engine rumbled, diesel fumes clouding the April air. I watched them drive down Elm Street, Clara's profile visible in the side window, sad but resolute. The house felt different when I went back inside. Quieter, bigger, mine again. I made a single cup of coffee instead of the family-sized pot, then settled into my recliner with the evening paper. Outside, the spring evening settled peacefully. No more missing money, no more disrespect, no more walking on eggshells in my own home. Justice hadn't been about revenge, it had been about protection. The engineering approach had worked. Identify the problem, design a solution, implement the fix, verify the results. Sometimes protecting your family means having the courage to reveal painful truths, even when they shatter comfortable illusions. My home was secure again. The problem was solved. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.